Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're getting right into it. We're breaking down exactly what it takes to retire comfortably on $6,000 a month. But more importantly, we're going to uncover the hidden financial traps that honestly catch way too many couples completely off guard. We're building a solid framework today to see if your nest egg is actually ready for the real world. So let's jump in. Okay, to make this concrete, let's look at a real-world case study. Meet our hypothetical couple, Tom and Mary. Now, they've got a very specific goal in mind. They want to spend $6,000 a month in retirement. Do some quick math, and that translates to exactly $72,000 a year. Sounds like a fantastic target, right? But to see if it actually holds up, we need to evaluate their primary financial pillars.
What's really interesting here is how Tom and Mary's goals stacks up against the rest of the country. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average retired couple actually spends about $60,000 a year. So Tom and Mary's $72,000 goal, it's slightly above that national average. And because they're aiming for that premium lifestyle, we've got to figure out exactly how they're going to fund it without running out of money later in life.
To build this income safely, we rely on a framework made up of three fundamental pillars. Think of these as the absolute foundation of your retirement house. Pillar 1 is Social Security. Pillar 2 is guaranteed income, so things like a pension from an employer, an annuity, or maybe some steady rental income. And finally, Pillar 3 is your personal savings. We're talking about your IRAs, 401ks, and brokerage accounts.
So let's apply this. Where exactly is Tom and Mary's money going to come from? Well, based on 2025 averages, if they retire at age 65, they can expect a combined Social Security benefit of about $3,500 a month. Unfortunately for them, they don't have a pension or any of that guaranteed income, so Pillar 2 is a big old zero. To hit that $6,000 goal, that leaves exactly $2,500 that absolutely must be generated every single month from their personal savings. Now for the big question. How much savings do they actually need to generate that $30,000 a year? You've probably heard of the traditional 4% rule, but our source suggests that might be just a bit too conservative for this scenario. Instead, they recommend starting with a slightly more flexible 5% withdrawal rate. To find out the total nest egg needed, it's pretty simple. Just take that $30,000 annual need and multiply it by 20, since 20 is the inverse of 5%. And boom, there's the magic number. A surprisingly achievable $600,000 nest egg allows Tom and Mary to hit their $6,000 month goal. Basically, if they have $600,000 saved up and they retire at age 65, the math says they are good to go. It sounds like a beautifully simple plan, right? You hit your number, you retire at 65, and you ride off into the sunset. But wait, this is exactly where couples dangerously underestimate the math. They build their whole plan, but completely overlook two hidden expenses that can literally derail their happily ever after. The first hidden trap is taxes. A lot of folks just assume that $6,000 a month is tax-free money, but withdrawals from traditional IRAs and 401ks are taxed as ordinary income. And yep, a portion of Social Security is taxable too. Thankfully for Tom and Mary, after factoring in IRS rules and a standard deduction of about $32,000, their actual taxable income drops to just $14,000. Putting them in the 10% bracket, their federal tax bill is only around $1,400 for the entire year. That's a number their $72,000 budget can easily absorb. So disaster avoided there. But the second hidden trap? This one is much more dangerous. It's all about private healthcare costs. If Tom and Mary wait until age 65, they get Medicare, which is incredibly predictable. It usually runs around $6,000 to $8,000 a year out of pocket. But what if they decide they want to retire early, say at age 62? Well, then they're forced into the Affordable Care Act, the ACA marketplace, and those private healthcare costs before Medicare kicks in can be absolutely brutal. Let's look at exactly what that costs in the real world. Say they live in Ohio and report an $80,000 income. They'd actually qualify for a nice $1,500 monthly ACA subsidy. That brings their monthly premium down to about $1,000 for a middle-tier plan. Not terrible, right? But hold on. When you add up those $12,000 in premiums, with high deductibles, dental, and vision, their estimated medical costs skyrocket to around $18,000 a year. Now, you might be looking at this and thinking the solution is incredibly simple. Okay, we'll just withdraw a little bit more money from our savings to cover that extra $18,000 medical bill. We have the cash in the IRA, so what's the big deal? Well, here's the big deal. Taking out more money triggers a massive trapdoor known as the ACA subsidy cliff. This is absolutely critical to understand. You see, ACA coverage and those generous subsidies we just talked about are strictly based on your reported income. If you pull an extra dollar out of your IRA just to pay a medical bill, you are increasing your income on paper. And here is where it gets scary. In 2026, the magic cutoff threshold is $84,000. By withdrawing extra savings to pay that initial medical bill, Tom and Mary might accidentally push their income to $85,000. By crossing that strict threshold, they instantly lose all their subsidies. Suddenly, they aren't paying $18 grand a year anymore. Their healthcare costs double and skyrocket to $36,000 a year. Think about what that means, because they have to cover those massive private healthcare costs entirely out of pocket from their own savings between ages 62 and 65, a period where they aren't even drawing Social Security yet. Their financial plan needs a major recalculation. Retiring at 65 required a $600,000 target, but retiring at 62 under these new conditions, that changes the math completely. To safely retire at 62 without falling off that healthcare cliff and running out of money, Tom and Mary's required nest egg suddenly jumps from $600,000 to $900,000. That is a massive $300,000 difference just for retiring 3 years earlier. And it's all because of the nuances of healthcare and taxation. So, what's the big takeaway here? Achieving a $6,000 a month retirement is absolutely doable, but it requires highly intentional planning. You must audit your guaranteed income, accurately project your pre-Medicare healthcare costs, carefully monitor those strict ACA income thresholds, and use a reasonable 5% withdrawal rate to calculate your true target nest egg. And, as we just saw, that nest egg can range anywhere from $600,000 to $900,000, depending entirely on the choices you make. So as you look closely at your own financial pillars and plan for the future, I want you to ask yourself, are your retirement dreams built on solid math? Or are you walking blindly toward a healthcare cliff? Take the time to run your own numbers, factor in those hidden costs, and make sure your next chapter is as secure as you deserve it to be. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.